whole stadium full of people, but it should be pretty exciting. So my name is Sean, I'm from Power Broker, and we help companies and businesses reduce their electricity cost. Pretty significant, moving ahead with the price of electricity it's going to be. So I'll just start off with a little spiel about how Power Broker began, right? So our story starts 10 years ago in the Yarra Valley. We were living down there at a little country town called Seville. Beautiful, beautiful place. Paddocks, vineyards, orchards, it's so great. And then winter comes along and it's freaking god awful. You just get this mist set over the valley that just doesn't dissipate till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we decided in 2012 that we would follow the sun. So we decided to move up here to the Gold Coast, and it was really good. At the time, Mel's career was, she was an accountant by trade. So her first job was for as an accountant. She thought she was going for an accountancy job with this job interview, right? Turns out it wasn't for an accountant, it was for an accounts manager for an electricity broker, right? So this job lasted for about 2.5 years. It turns out that she was quite gifted at being an accounts manager. So, but after 2.5 years ago, the company she was working for, as far as she was good at what she was doing, she wasn't treated very well. So decided to leave, right? But some other people knew how good she was, so they poached her and said, look, we don't have an electricity broker's business. Sorry, I'm moving around, and there's should be here like this. And they said, but we would like to set one up, so we will pay you to set up our business for us, right? So this took about 9 months, and it just wasn't panning out, and they weren't paying very well. They were very tight with their money, which makes it very hard to build a business, right? I could see this happening, and at the time I had my pom-poms out thinking she's going to end up starting her own business when this falls through. Sure enough, she did. And that's how Power Broker was born, right? And so then we get into helping companies with electricity. So the big conversation at the moment is the price of electricity and where it's going. So the reason why the electricity is increasing the way that it is because the price of coal is going through the roof, the price of gas is going through the roof, and these are the main two aspects that relate to the price of electricity. There are also some other aspects. So because we've had so much water in Queensland, they're actually burning wet coal. And it might not sound like a lot, but it really affects the efficiency on the burning process, and it makes it a lot more expensive to create electricity. Also, with the clouds and the rain, we're getting less pushback into the system from the solar. So these are the main reasons why the electricity is going the way it's going. Is it topped out yet? No, I don't think it has. The projections are saying that it's still got a bit of pain to go yet. So we're not 100% sure where that's going to end up because it's all projections, but the time for looking at solutions to stop that hit in the guts when you have to change contracts is now, so that it's not going to be so bad down the line. So I'll just talk about sort of how we can reduce your electricity costs, and then I'll get more into solutions. So we reduce your electricity costs in 3 ways. We initially look at your contracts and get the best contracts going for you through a tendering process. We then look at management, so you get the benefit out of your usage by using your electricity in a smarter manner. And then the main thing is, at the moment, we look at solutions. And solutions is really what I'm going to get into today, right? So the big issue with electricity moving ahead is going to be how much you use. That's going to be the best way that you can save through solutions. So the first aspect is usage itself. The best way to bring usage down is through solar, because it essentially brings the tide of electricity down really much. So with solar, usually there's about a 2.5 to 3.5 year return on investment, and that return on investment also comes with a cash positive situation. So the money you are paying out to have your solar put on is actually totally offset by what you save with the bills, right? So straight away you go into a cash positive situation for 2.5, 3.5, sometimes 4 years, depending on the situation, and then you're into the real savings. So We are really trying to push the solar at the moment because that's probably the best solution that companies can adhere to save money down the line. Another aspect of usage is what they call power factor. And what that is, are you using all the electricity you're drawing from the grid? A lot of companies aren't. So a lot of companies might have a power factor of 0.9, which means for every 100 kilowatt hours you draw from the grid, you're only using 90 kilowatts. So you're paying for 10% electricity that you're not even using, right? Specifically, manufacturing is big for this because machinery uses it needs an electrical field to run. So that's one reason why your power factor is down, because the machinery that you're using is using that 10% extra to actually even just run the machine to get all the production out of it. Another reason why your usage will be down is power quality. See, it's like there's so many little aspects to this. So an electrical wave is a nice wave such as this. But a bad power quality wave would be a wave that's just like scrapey like this. One reason why power quality might be bad is because of solar these days. As much as I was saying how good solar was 5 minutes ago, the network is actually made for one-way direction. So that when you have lots of solar coming back into the grid at certain points, that actually creates a harmonic distortion within the electricity. And then the electricity arrives at your premise and it's scratchy, not smooth, and it's not as efficient. So that actually reduces your power factor as well. There are solutions that you can do to create a better power factor, which is called power factor correction equipment. And that will give you a power factor of 1 to 1. So you'll be using all of the electricity that you're paying for. So how they achieve this is they actually have capacitors which store energy, and then it puts energy into your system at the right time to help create that nice power factor correction. So we have usage, we have power factor. That's 2 minutes, is it? Okay, well gee, I'm about a third of the way through. Okay, so, sorry, I forgot where I was there. Okay, so we have usage, we have power factor. Another aspect is demand. I won't get so much into that because demand is part of network charges, and the network charges haven't gone up so much as the actual rates, which is why your best solutions at the moment is to bring your usage down rather than put too much solution money into creating like a demand solution. So they're some of the main things with solutions at the moment. Okay, so because it sounds like a bad time, but it's actually not as bad as that, because it's at times like this that ingenuity and creativity comes into line. So I'll tell a little story. For Sheb last week says stories are good, so I'm trying to think of a story, so I'm going to tell you a story. It's not 100% relative to what we're here, but it's actually a good story about the electricity system. So I was at a pool, literally like about 2 months ago, having a swim, and there was this bloke next to me swimming. I got to talking to him, because when I go swimming in the pool, I spend no time swimming and all my time talking, which is, I went for a 2-hour swim today, good for me, and it didn't quite pan out that way. But anyway, so he works in the gas industry and he's really well up, and he was saying that when they drill a gas hole to create the gas, it costs $1 million per kilometre of piping to get it to where you need to get it. And sometimes these gas pipes are like well in the middle of nowhere, right? So then they do a study based on what they think they're going to get out of the gas pipe to how much it costs to get it to where it has to go, the town or wherever. And it turns out that there's a lot of drilled gas pipes that actually just get plugged because they're not going to be economically viable, right? So what this fella has done, and it's beautiful creativity, he actually is working for a company now that buys these plugged up gas holes, right? And he puts equipment there that changes the gas into electricity, and then he uses that electricity to mine Bitcoin. Right? So that's the sort of mindset we're looking at moving ahead. And because as we know, the Bitcoin mining takes a lot of electricity. So these people have put themselves in a really good positions in two industries for that reason. So in the end, that's kind of the end of my spiel on electricity. Things are looking bad, but you can put solutions in to alleviate the blow, and there is going to come a time of ingenuity and creativity there. When we get past this, we'll probably be in a better place moving along. So, yes.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Now, I just had, there's a couple of questions. We've heard you a little bit in regard to it, and I suppose people who live at home and have got their own offices should speak to you and tell me whether I'm a little bit wrong here. I know with Anita being successful in her business, because she's got availability to 46 lenders, okay? But banks have only got the Commonwealth Bank or Westpac. Am I on the right page in regard to your capacity to get the best results for any one person here based on their own, whether it's business or private or both?
When it comes to the tendering process for contracts, we work with the top tier. There's 4 top tier providers. We work with those 4. You have your middle tier providers, but they can't compete with the electricity prices. So there's only 4 providers that we deal with, and they're always, whatever is best option for the market at the time, we get that through them, because the other ones can't compete. So yeah.
I'd use Sean and go and speak to him, personally speaking, but over to you.
Can you just explain what costs you charge to review someone's electricity?
Yeah, so essentially this whole process is a free service from us. We get paid commission by the providers, and then we also get paid commission based on what solutions we have implemented, because all we're doing is creating the handshake. Whether it be that we work with a few solar companies, we work with some electrical engineers, so we get paid commission by them. The tendering process itself costs $500, but if you take that contract, we waive that fee. It's just a way to avoid tyre kickers as far as tendering process goes, because it's a process and it takes a little while, so you don't want to be spending that time when it was never really going to happen anyway. So yeah, $500 for the tendering process. But if you take the contract, we waive that fee. So yes, essentially a free service.
Time for one more question, otherwise we'll have the quote of the week. Any other questions?
Andrew?
But use Dean. Sean, sorry, it's happened before.
Sean, how much power would you have to use to make it worth your while?
Okay, so in the electricity world, you've got 2 contracts, right? You have small market electricity contracts and you have large market electricity contracts. A large market electricity contract is the 100 megawatt hours and above. That would be about the equivalent of size of a standalone Zarafas, right? That's where we're looking at where we can really make a difference with the tendering process and the contracts. As far as solutions goes, but we're working on a little cafe down the road, and it's only like a little 20 kilowatt system. So as far as solutions go, there's no real limit. But as far as the tendering process goes, large market electricity contracts only. So yes.
Thanks, Sean. Now we go over to Glenn, who's